and it's my pleasure to welcome Mr. Andy Hart.
Thank you. What we're going to share with you today is some of the things that we do with the members to focus them on how to generate more business. And I know the topic is ROI, and we will touch on that. But really, it's the drivers that make the ROI. And it's really important to understand what makes BNI work and how it works so you can leverage it more effectively for your business. What do you invest in? On page 19 in your manuals, on the member manuals, there are two boxes. What do you invest your money in? And what do you invest your time in? Can I just ask you very quickly just to make a couple of notes in those boxes on what do you do to invest your time and your money? Okay, just quickly do those. Just a few more seconds on this. Now, here's the question. Which is more valuable, money or time? Without a doubt. And in BNI, actually, your investment is in time. Your biggest investment in BNI is time. It's not the money you pay to your chapter for your breakfast. It is not the money you pay for BNI to a membership. It's actually your time. And it's leveraging your time more effectively that makes it work for your business. As business owners, do you have much time? It's one thing we don't have a lot of. And so it's really about using that time more effectively and making sure that when you are spending time, that it is worth the investment. Okay. Now, this is what $1 million question looks like. No joke. If you solve that mathematical problem, this institute will pay you $1 million. Okay, so I want everybody to write this down now, and if you come up with the answer by the end of the thing, please come and see me at the front of the thing, and I'll tell you where to apply. But return on investment is the big question in BNI. How much are our members making, and what benefit does BNI bring to their business? Now, to put it in context, BNI is a marketing system. It markets your business. These are the 4 classic ways that businesses market their business. Okay, so networking, referrals, advertising, and public relations. If you notice, I put active, passive. Advertising and PR are pretty much passive forms of marketing, whereas networking and referrals are active. You actually have to put time into them, whereas the other side, you actually just have to put money into them, pretty much. Now, we do weekly networking, yes? We do weekly referrals, yes? We're a pretty active networking, yeah, network. Do we do PR? Word of mouth marketing. When your members leave that room, they should be carrying your PR with them. Yeah, every week they talk about your businesses. Do we do advertising? BNI Connect. We do 4 in 1. And this is the huge thing. But here's the question. Why does it work? In every sales process, you have to go through 4 basic stages. Okay. You have to do an opening. You have to do an inquiry, find out the issues that your clients potentially have. You have to present your solution to them. And then you have to close them. Okay. With BNI, how many of those do you have to do yourself? All of them? I would contend you only have to do 2, because your fellow members do the rest. They find you the opportunity, and they do the inquiry. They warm up the prospect. And in effect, you spending time with members, getting them to find your referrals, actually cuts down your sales process by 50% physically. But actually, which is the easier to do? Present and close. So all you're really doing with a good referral is just presenting your solution to their problem and closing them. I've literally gone into, as a member, I was a 7-year member, as a member, I've gone into a business, sat down, and somebody just said, when can you start? I literally just sat down and they said, when can you start? Not how much, what do we do? They just said, the strength of the referral was so strong, they just said, when can you start? Your closing ratio on this, a referral, would be much higher than having to prospect all that way through. So think about how it's actually speeding up your use of time. Also, how does it work? BNI is a mindset. Changing the way the world does business is just more than a slogan. It's actually a mindset. BNI is your business. Why is BNI your business? Because it's your marketing. It's part of your integrated marketing. And you're leveraging other people else's time. So when you're doing your business, everybody else is helping you find more business. And so it's about leveraging that. Also, learn more to earn more. I'll show you some stats a bit later on, which prove that people who invest in their own education actually improve their return from BNI. Here's the interesting thing. Education cannot be taken away from you. So the more you invest in your own self-development, the more ability you have to generate wealth. A guy called Keith Cunningham. Anybody know Keith Cunningham? Oh, yeah. Anybody know Rich Dad, Poor Dad? Hands up? Okay. Keith Cunningham is Rich Dad. Okay? He is the character. He's the real person. And he lost everything. And in 3 years, because of the knowledge he had, he basically got his fortune back and then was able to persuade the IRS to write off a $9 million debt, something that's never been done before, just by the knowledge he had. When he took that journey, he was basically living in his own car, and that's all he had. And he decided, no, I know I have the knowledge to do this, and he basically built back his fortune. It's a really interesting book. Look him up on the net. Keys to the Vault, his books. Giver's Gain as well. It's a philosophy. It's about helping other people first. If you invest in them and help them, guess what? They help you back. Here's a question. Are people more giving or more taking? Hands up. More giving. More taking. Okay. What's interesting is a lot of studies have shown that actually people are reciprocal. In other words, what happens to you, what you do to them, they will do to you. About 68% of people are reciprocal. In other words, what happens to them. So think about how we treat people. The more we push on people, the more they push back. The more we help people, the more they help back. And it's really interesting. The philosophy of Giver's Gain transcends culture. I've been to a lot of countries and spoken to members around the world. And when they engage in Giver's Gain, there is a full commitment to each other's success. And it's amazing to go to India and see a chapter in India, and then go to a chapter in Sweden and see the same desire to help each other. Now, it's a skill set as well. You have to learn how to do a presentation, how to use the, to make 60 seconds or a sales marketing minute. But also, it's a tool set as well. One-to-ones, worksheets and things like that is BNI Connect. These are all tools. And it's really about getting all of these in balance that helps you. But if you don't have the mindset, you can't acquire, and you don't see the point of acquiring the skill set or the tool set. Have you ever you've been in a chapter and someone said, oh, that member just doesn't get it? Yeah? Doesn't get BNI. Whose responsibility is that? Yeah, absolutely. Well, why don't we help that person get it? Because if we invest in people, guess what? They invest in us. Okay. These are member traffic lights. And this theory is called split theory. Basically divide the member traffic lights in two. And then start looking at the total results of the two groups. Okay? Group A and Group B. That is the total thank you for the closed business given by those two groups. Which group would you prefer to be in? Okay. But you could say, but Andy, but they're giving to the bottom group, so they're not doing as much work, so why wouldn't? I'll show you. Number of absences over a 6-month period. Number of visitors over a 6-month period. Testimonials, written testimonials. Okay. Given and received. The money is staying still in the top. Yeah, what's being given is being received. The system is being worked and worked to a different level. Okay, but you're going to say, well, why? What difference is it going to make? Well, these are the drivers. Education. The top group have engaged in education more than the bottom group. Yeah, you say, so what? What's that led to? Interestingly, activity. An activity that's being productive as well. Look at one-to-ones. And you might go, well, what's so important about one-to-ones? One-to-ones are critical to the success of your chapter for a very good reason. I'm going to show you that reason. Okay, why aren't there so many one-to-ones done in a chapter? Why do people not do one-to-ones? What are the things that they say? Time, things like that. We actually surveyed our members and we said, okay, why do you not do one-to-ones? Let's find out the reasons and then we can actually help you look at the focus. Okay, don't take them seriously. I've done a one-to-one. I don't need to do another one-to-one. Don't put enough time aside. How many of you have lunch? Okay, how many of you try to have lunch? Okay. Do you have lunch with a member every day? Spending that time together. Yeah. Maybe you visit each other's offices to have time together. Or go out to different restaurants together. And so, it's using the time that you're currently using anyway, just but in a much more productive way. People don't prepare. Have you ever been rushed? You're doing a job, you've got a one-to-one, you go, oh God, and you rush out, and you're there, and it's like it's a panic, and you're not present. You're somewhere else, you're thinking about all the problems that you're actually having in the business or things like that, or you've got to get that letter out. And we're just not prepared to have a one-to-one. But if I say to you, you're going to see your best client, and that they're actually going to be your best client, and not only that, they're actually going to generate more and more business for you every week, would you be present? It's funny how members think about it in this way, is I drive 2 hours to go and pick up a check, but I will not spend 1 hour with someone to get more checks in the future. Don't have an agenda. I've been guilty of this as a member. Gone and had a cup of coffee with someone, yes? Nice to have. Spent the time. We usually talk about the weather, especially in Ireland. We talk about your man in the chapter, what he's up to, the crazy things he did at 60 seconds. We talk about football. We talk about all sorts of things, except, guess what? Business. And how many times do we do this? It's good to spend time with people, but drinking coffee will not make a difference to your business. Okay, some of the other things. Don't have a structure. And I'm going to show you some things to really look at in this. Right? It's really that there's no structured reason to meet. And don't agree to take an action. How many one-to-ones you've left, which was a really great experience, had really fun with a person, but left with no action to follow from the one-to-one? Here's the thing. If you do not leave with an action, something to do for that other person, some other benefit to bring to that person, guess what? You've just had a cup of coffee. Okay. Don't review the action as well. How many actions do you set or goals do you set yourself and then don't review them and follow up on them? And with a member, you agree to do something for each other, but you actually don't then follow up with each other. It's really important that you get in the habit of setting the actions you're going to take for each other. Okay, so I'm going to call a friend, or you're going to do X, Y, and Z, and then review it and say, well, how did you get on? Here's the thing. I've got to teach you how to market my business. Are you going to get that right every time? And the thing is, I need to take responsibility to improve your ability to basically get the opportunity for me. And if I do that, the only way I can do it is understand what you did when you tried. Have you ever had a one-to-one with members, they've agreed to do something and they failed and they've just really very hesitant about doing it again? It's all part of the learning process. I need to teach you how to market my business. And I need to make sure that you can do it as well as I can when I'm not there. And that's hugely important. That person is your brand representative. They represent your business, your brand, your future PR within the market. And you really need to think about educating people and keep that educational process going. And they don't do it again. Ever had a one-to-one with a person, especially in a big chapter, one-to-one with someone, and you've never got around to do it again? What a lost opportunity. Okay, so let's look at some of the things we can do. Okay, I'm going to ask you some simple questions. If you look in your notebook, there is questions A's and questions B's. Now, this is a very quick test, and I'm not going to give you a great deal of time. You know all these answers. I know that, so I'm going to make sure that you get all these answers correct, okay? So, first question. Who's the wealthiest person in America? No shouting out. This is a personal test. Who's the fourth American to step on the moon? Who's the last American to get a Nobel Prize? Who's the American who got the last Pulitzer Prize? And of course, you know this one. Who was the head coach of the first team that won the Super Bowl? Now, they're all famous people. You must know them. No? Okay. I'm going to actually try a harder test. Okay? Now, I want you to write these down because these are important. These are important to you as well. The answers to these questions are important. Okay. Who are the two teachers who helped you or influenced you most at school or college? Who were two friends that supported you at a time of need? Who were the two people who taught you something worthwhile? A grandparent, somebody like that. Who were the two people who made you feel special or appreciated? Those are particularly important. Okay. And the last one is really important. Is who are the two people whom you like spending time with? Now, if you're going to leave this around at home, make sure that your wife's name there. Or your partner's name. Okay. Okay, but what's the difference between the two lists? The other people are famous. What's the difference here? Yeah, you're in relationship with them. And the important things about relationship is that it's the thing that connects us. It's the thing that binds us, but it's also the thing that helps us as well. Quality relationships are huge. The quality of the relationship is hugely important. Okay. Now, in the little triangle, I want you to write down, what I want you to do is imagine someone, and I know you probably have someone in your mind, who you have a negative relationship with. Negative. Okay? Think about that person and put all the adjectives, all the sort of the words that come to mind when you think about it. Now, this is probably someone that you have to do business with, or they're in your life, but it's a negative relationship. And it's low trust as well. You don't trust this person, but you have to deal with that person. I'm not saying they're relatives, but, can be. Okay, so write all the adjectives very quickly. Just note down those things. Think about that person emotionally. Okay, now, I'm going to flip it. What does that feel like? What are those people like? How's it like to work with those people? High trust relationships. Think of someone who have trust implicitly. Okay. Now, what I mean by this is, has anybody drove here today? Okay, can you just pull out your keys, please? Very quickly if you can. Hold them up. When I say high trust, it is the fact that you would be willing to hand over those keys, and it's not that kind of party. You're willing to hand over those keys to someone and know that you could trust them. Because those keys not only are your car, probably your business, your home, everything is encapsulated. If you couldn't hand your keys over to someone, you're not in a high trust relationship. Now, think about the difference. Think of those people in that relationship with you. Now, what does this really mean? Okay, it means that the quality of the relationship, we can be in relationship with people, but it's the quality that makes the difference. Referrals are a transfer of trust. It's as simple as this. Okay, Eddie is in a chapter and I'm in a chapter. Eddie is actually a chiropractor from Limerick. He actually helped me sort out my back. Now, Pat, I have a very good relationship with Pat. Now, I also have a very good relationship with Eddie. I trust Eddie implicitly because he helped me sort out my back. And when I had a car crash, I basically slightly buckled my back and was very uncomfortable for a long time until Eddie sorted me out. Now, I know Pat has the same condition, but not through a car crash, but from overwork. So what I'm going to do is propose or go to Pat and tell him, I know the solution for your problem. I trust Eddie, and I'm basically transferring my trust in Eddie to Pat. You know that 1 to 5 down the side? It's how excited people are to take the call. Well, really, it's how much they trust that person. How much do they think that person will help them solve their problems. What you're doing when you're doing a referral is you're connecting solutions to people's problems, but with partners that are trusted. You can trust that this person will look after that problem and that person because you care about the person you're referring. Okay, so now what happens is Pat extends trust. There's no relationship there. They've never met. But they're extending our trust in Eddie through this relationship. What is Eddie's responsibility? Yeah, justify that trust. Because if they don't, what happens? Where does the trust go? As a member, when you receive a referral, what is your responsibility? Justify that trust. Follow up. Did you know, and this is an anecdotal statistic, but it's scary in itself, that a third of all referrals are not followed up? Yeah? Have you ever gone back to someone and said, how did you get on with that referral? And they said, oh, I didn't have time. Yeah? It happens. You need to justify the trust. Then, obviously, when you do, the cycle improves and you get more and more confident and more trusting. Have you ever been working with a referral partner and they've not done something or they've messed something up and the damage that it's done to your relationship? Yeah, or seen it in a chapter even. Okay, so that's why trust is hugely important. Now, if you look at the box, this comes from The Speed of Trust. It's a really good book to read. Get it on audio as well. One of the things I would suggest is if you're in the car, use that time. Get audio files, to CDs, and even swap them around the chapter as well. Even conference CDs. Get a pack for the chapter and basically swap them around. Hugely important that you can exchange information and exchange knowledge. Okay. Integrity. Learn to keep commitments to yourself and others. Yeah? So when you're going to say you're going to call, you call. When you're going to do something, do something. But particularly with yourself as well. Just on a personal development point of view, keeping commitments with yourself is hugely important for self-esteem. Intention. Make sure your intention is clear. How many times have you been with someone, you know that they're very giving or seem to be? And you get that sense that there's something underneath, there's a hidden agenda to it. Make sure your intentions are clear, what you're trying to achieve with people. Very clear. Next one is ability. Here's the thing. With members, it's better to play to your strengths. If someone passes you a piece of business that you know that you're probably not going to fulfill, or it's not your strength to fulfill, what's the best thing you can do with it? Yeah, find someone who can. You can say, look, I really appreciate all the work you've done, but I don't think that's actually right for my business. I'm going to find you someone who can actually cope with it. What does that do to the relationship? Huge. Absolutely huge. And also results. You've got to find a really good way of communicating your results. Okay. I don't know if you have it in America, but certainly in Australia and New Zealand and Ireland, there's a sort of poppy syndrome. If you get too high, people are, you've got to be able to communicate your results. If you brag too much, somebody will chop you down. It just seems a bit cultural. But here's the interesting thing. We have a mechanism in our chapters that allows us to communicate our results. What is that? Testimonials. And it's a really good way of actually somebody else affirming your results. Have you ever heard a testimonial chapter and thought, geez, I can actually refer that person now? It's sometimes just that tipping point. Okay, so do you tick all of the boxes of everybody else? Okay, here's the thing. What I want you to do is just quickly write down, what is it for you that somebody needs to tick? In other words, okay, do they have to be punctual? Do they have to be tidy? Some people have a real thing about, the way people are presented. What is the things that you have to be satisfied that this person does in order that they are referable? What's your list of things? Okay, I'll tell you a story. I was doing a one-to-one with a member, and it was very early days. I didn't know my way around. I got lost, and I had fallen into the west coast of Ireland's sort of attitude to time, which is there is no attitude toward time. It's sort of extended. And so I actually arrived late. And I don't think I've ever been dressed down by someone as an adult as I was then. Because interestingly enough, he had a huge value about punctuality. For him, that was the ultimate, tick box. I had to be punctual. If I wanted to be referred, I had to be punctual. I learned from that the most important thing is to find out what's on people's lists. Because it's really interesting. People have different lists. Now, this is a really good education moment. What we're going to do in a sec is just do it very quickly. But I want you to quickly share with the person sitting next to you what's on your list, because it probably won't be the same as yours. Just quickly show them. Say, okay, these are things on my list. What's on yours? So off you go for a couple of minutes. Just a few more seconds. Okay, if you can hear me say shh. Okay. Was everything on your list on their list? Did you take some of their things onto your list? It's really interesting. If you do this, this is a great educational moment in a chapter. What you do is you get basically little blank slips of paper, get everybody to write down their list of things that they require to refer someone, and then get everybody out and just networking around the room for the 4 minutes, and they get round to as many people as they can. Guess what? Referrals go up. Why? Because people understand what it's required to get on their referral list. Yeah? The question is, do you tick all those boxes? And very often, we don't express this with each other. We don't say, look, if you want to be referred, you have to do this, 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 and this. And the interesting thing is, if we communicate that, look, this is for me what I need you to be. And then, a lot of actually issues in the chapter go away because people get quite resentful that they're not being given business, or they're not, or they can't give business. Have you ever seen a member who's saying, why aren't I getting business? And yet the behavior in the chapter is not ticking everybody's boxes. And this simple exercise can actually clear that out because people begin to understand what it requires to be referred. Relationships. We have relationships, but there are different types of relationships. We have negative relationships. Yes? Okay. I'm not going to say it, but often with family. Okay. People you cannot get out of relationship, but you have a negative one with. Okay. Then you just have a relationship. Okay, people you see. Now, in large chapters, you may be seeing somebody in open networking, but actually don't get to have a relationship with them. Or people in your village or your town you see on the street. You say hi. You may know their name, you may not. But effectively, it's just you have a church or something like that. You have a relationship, but it's not really defined. Okay. Then you have a positive relationship. You know, like, and trust somebody. Yes? Okay. Do you refer everybody you know, like, and trust? No. Does everybody who knows, like, and trusts you refer you? No. So it's actually one step further. It's a positive business relationship. So it's a business relationship. And in other words, you know, like, and trust someone, and you're willing to refer them. Okay? And it takes a slightly different amount of energy to create that kind of relationship. But that's not the only level of relationship. A committed business relationship is where you are willing to change the way you do work in order to create business for someone. And this is hugely important, that you're willing to just change the way that you work that continuously flows business into somebody else's business. And when you start to get that level, you start to actually increase the amount of business. And this is what we teach in our chapters, and this is what they're working towards, because it is a journey, and you're at different stages. Okay. In your workbook, there is a grid, which basically is set out like this. Contact sphere, negative, relationship, positive, business relationship, committed business relationship. What I'm going to do is ask you to do a simple exercise of grading your relationships. If you want to just use their initials, especially if they're sitting right next to you. And it's only on your chapter, not your family, okay? I want you to grade your relationships. Now, if you get to about 10 people and you can't remember people's names, you're probably not in a good relationship with them. Okay, so if you can't remember people's names, especially in big chapters as well, how many people can you have that relationship? So just write their initials down the name side, and then just quickly, I just want you to grade your relationship level with them, because this is hugely important for your businesses. As quick as you can, because if you can't think of their names, then you probably don't have a relationship with them. Only your people in the chapter. It's really interesting when you do this with a chapter, how many people suddenly start looking around the room to see who's actually in the chapter. No joke. And they're looking at nameplates and things like that, badges. What we normally do, if we do this in a chapter, we usually ask the chapter to move away from the table. They don't do it next to each other, and basically just sit quietly and do it themselves. It's a very good educational moment, because it allows them to begin to realize where they are with each other. Okay, just a few more minutes on this. You'll notice that there's a line on that graph. There's also a line in your book as well, between negative and relationship, and then business relationship, and the other relationships. You'll also notice we put in contact sphere. Why putting in contact sphere is important? Because those are the people that can feed you the most business, and you need to get into a better relationship with them. You really do need a committed business relationship with those people. Okay, so the consequences is that line. If a majority of people in your chapter, you have just a negative relationship or just a relationship, you're not going to generate a huge amount of business for each other. The difference really is this, is positive relationships, they're advocates. They will promote your business when the opportunity comes up, but they will do not much more, okay? Whereas in a business relationship, they'll go out of their way to promote you, yeah? But a committed business relationship, they will actually create business for you. And this is a hugely important piece. You need to develop your relationships such that you are really in a committed business relationship. You adapt your business to generate more business for them. Okay. So the reasons that you should be doing one-to-ones is obviously build a relationship. Okay. Do you specifically, as soon as a new member comes into the chapter, make a beeline for that person and you're the first person who says, let me do a one-to-one with you? You have to establish a relationship such that they trust you. But also you need to learn about them to find out where they are on the confidence curve. The more you spend time with people, you can improve your understanding of their business and confidence to actually achieve that. New members are a great source of business simply because they're looking for help, in the sense that they will, if you help someone in the early stages, they will help you long term. Okay? A friend of mine, he is now coming on for 11-year member. First thing I did with him was sat down and I discussed the personalities in the chapter. And I told him about Tom, the guy who'd dressed me down. I said, do not be late for Tom. And Tim was a management accountant, and he won Tom's business. But not only that, he actually won a lot more business from Tom as well, simply because I told him about the personalities. It's really good to help people understand how the chapter works as well. Finding common ground. Okay. Who likes sports here? Who likes basketball? Okay. Who likes hockey? Okay. So do your members know that? I was in a chapter recently, and we were doing an exercise, and 2-year members, didn't realize that they both liked fishing. They'd been literally sitting next to each other for 2 years and never had explored their interests or commonalities. The other thing you can do is find out what your clients have in common. We had 2 members sit down and work out that a lot of their clients actually liked cooking. So what they did is they put on a cooking event, brought all their clients together, and a huge amount of business was actually transferred between them. Another good reason to have a one-to-one is to review the action. The action you take. Just doing the one-to-one and saying, I'm going to do something for you, unless you come back and review how they did, is you're not going to get the leverage on your time. Really focusing on referrals as well. Long-standing members, this is really important for long-standing members. How many times have you seen huge amounts of referral for coming from one person, and then over time it just tails off? Can I ask you to take out your mobile phones? Pretty much nowadays, this is our client base. Probably has most of our clients in. On average, somewhere between 700 to 900 numbers. Yeah. What's a really good exercise with members is to sit down, and this is only where you trust someone implicitly, is you go from A to Z, and you describe who they are. You don't make judgments about whether or not they want to meet that person or not. You just basically say, okay, Aunt Agnes is living here. She does this, this, and this. Are you interested in that? And they may say no, but go on. You will actually find people of interest in that. And it's really about sharing your contacts in your phone. And it's a really good way of working a one-to-one as well. So instead of just talking relationships, you're actually working your database to describe that to each other. And it's hugely important that you do that with people you trust, because obviously you're sharing personal information. You're not divulging information that would compromise your profession, but you're just saying, look, I know this person. They could be relatives, they could be friends, they could be clients, but all you're doing is giving a general description. And that way you're actually systematically working a system that generates more business. Strategic referral generation. This is about your calendar. What you do, particularly in your contact spheres, this is good exercise in chapters, get all your contact spheres together, in other words, all your power groups or whatever, and get them to tell each other where they're going. This week, for the next 2 weeks, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. What's really interesting is people start going, well, I'd like to be on that client, or that would be a good job for getting me in. Yeah, it really does start to generate warm business. And the question is when that person is visiting that client, what questions do you want them to ask that can spark business for you? Think about it. When somebody else is meeting their client, what questions do you want them to ask that will lead to information that you can use to generate business? New members, as I said, hugely important. Spend time with people who can become your best referral partners. Yeah, and as Ivan said from the stage today, you don't know who they know or who they are, but it's worth finding out. Preparing the necessary basics. All of these are tools that we give you, and it's really important to look at them from the point of a tool set. And there are others as well, but fundamentally you should be doing a gains profile with everybody. In your book, there is a little explanation of what is important about the gains profile. Making sure that you touch base with someone on those areas, particularly with the interests and things like that, but also goals. If you know somebody's goals, you can actually help them. And remember, people are reciprocal. So if you help them, guess what they do? They're far more likely to help you. If you help someone achieve their goals, it's hugely important. Mentoring. If they don't get it, who's going to help them? Do you want to be the person to help them? Or do you want to just leave it to somebody else in the chapter? Mentoring, even through a one-to-one, is helping people understand the process. The more they understand, the more likely they're going to help you, but also then pass that knowledge on. How fast do you want to integrate somebody into your chapter? How quickly do you want them to benefit another member, and that member benefit another member? Or do we just leave them? They get it. We're okay with that, aren't we? You're adding someone to your sales force. They are going to do your marketing for you. How quickly, if you brought on a salesperson, would you want to integrate them? Hugely important. With visitors. How many of you do one-to-ones with visitors? Look around the room. Lost opportunity. I got huge amount of business from visitors. Do you know what I did? Before they left, I just walked up to them and said, would you like to do a one-to-one? And guess what they said? What's a one-to-one? It's when I sit down and see how I can help you. Huge. How many times as business people does someone, complete stranger, walk up and say, I'd love to spend time with you and I'd like to help you in the process? But also, what impression does that leave on with the people who visit the chapter? There are loads of topics that you can explore with visitors. And it's really important to understand that they may not join the chapter, but it doesn't mean that they're not a valuable source of referral business or business for your own business. The referral process itself is really important. And in your books, this is listed, so you can note these things down, and I'll go through it. You're given the referral. You make contact. You meet up with the client, potentially. You quote, and the meeting could be on phone. You get the order. You've done the job, you give thank you for closed business, and then you get a testimonial. A referral is only really a referral, and we call this the 8 ball. Anybody play pool? Yeah, everybody plays pool in America, of course. But the game isn't over until the 8 ball is down, and we call the testimonial the 8 ball. Because that closes the loop, improves relationship, and also gives you stronger information to pass on. But here's the thing. Have you ever rung somebody and just not been able to get through them? You've got a referral, and you've rung them, and rung them, and rung them, and rung them. How frustrating is that? And then you give up. And what do you think of the person who gave it to you? It degrades the relationship. However, if you work with your partner who gave you the referral, it's not just like I give Clay a referral and then run for the hills. I stay in touch all the way through that process because I can actually help. So I know Tim has rung that person and they're not getting through. So what do? I make a call. I get through and I say, during the conversation at some point, how are you getting on with Tim? Now I know the person has a problem and Tim can solve it. And usually what will they say? I didn't get round to it. I've got to return his call. You can re-prompt that. Say, look, I tell you what, I know Tim is really busy, but I'm going to get him to give you a ring right now. You okay with that? Yes. You can re-engage in the process, yeah? And it's really important that you keep engaged in the referral process to help the relationship. Because if you lose a referral partner, it's going to take a long time to get them back as well. Keeping engaged in the referral partnership all the way through to a testimonial is hugely important. Okay, so we come back to the million-dollar question. What is ROI? Okay, there's a simple way of basically calculating your ROI. So your return, how much you've made from BNI, divided, and it's simply divide by the investment. In other words, your membership cost. Okay, this is purely calculative. And what you'll get is a ratio. So you'll get, for every dollar you invest, you'll get X number of dollars. Okay, so in comparison, and these figures are from industry worldwide, how does BNI compare with other marketing systems or bits of systems? Remember, we get 4 out of the 4, whereas others are just 1. Okay, so for newspapers, for every dollar you invest, you get 24 cents back. Because newspapers are only really one day. How many newspapers do you see around the house? And where do you normally see them? Trash, in the utility room. I often see them in our kids' shoes, when I'm lighting a fire. They're very transient. Magazines are better. For $1, you get 1.57. Why? In magazines, why do you get a higher return? Because they stay around. They're on coffee tables. They're in the doctor's surgeries. PR, $1.90. Pretty good. Online ads. It's very cheap, but it's quite effective. Okay, so the big question, in my region, what do you think the return is for members? For every dollar they spend, how much do they get back? Not quite. $78. Comparative to any other form of marketing, BNI wins hands down. And also, you can actually start adding all of those back in, because pretty much we cover those off as well. Thing is monetary gain in BNI is a given. However, there are other benefits. Ireland has been hit by the worst economic situation that it's ever faced, apart from the famine. And members have taken non-business decisions to keep going. One of our members in the Donegal chapter 45, cancelled her insurance on her business, which was a riding school. And the very weekend she cancelled her insurance, her building, her school, basically caught fire. Not only caught fire, but it then spread to the house, which was next door, and burnt the house down, and 2 cars as well. Now, ordinarily, that would have been completely disastrous to someone. But guess what? The members gave her a house, found her some spare cars, rallied around her. And within months, she was back in business. And there's countless stories like that in BNI, where people have lost things and people have rallied round. Even in your own region, there are countless stories like that. BNI's ROI, I think, is this. Relationships operating in alignment. Getting everybody to focus on the task at hand and achieving more together. You have no idea of the potentiality that a chapter can have if it aligns itself to create business opportunities for each other. And it's really the inspiration of Givers Gain and basically aligning your relationships within a chapter. If you begin to look at your relationships on that checklist and improve the level of your relationships over that line and intercommitted business relationships, you will improve your business no end, simply because people, when they're doing their business, will be generating new business. Thank you very much.